How's it going? Dylan here. Today we're going to be chatting to you about Luke Cage Season 2. So Netflix was nice enough to give me very early access to Luke Cage Season 2, the entire season, so all 12 or 13 episodes, something like that. And I've watched it over the last month or so to form kind of an opinion and see how it goes. So I've been trying to fit it in whenever I could around all my other reviews and Blu-ray related things. And by the way, this is Alex here, my daughter. She wanted to join in on this review. So, Season 2 picks up kind of after we left off in actually the Defenders a little bit. And basically, Luke goes up against some familiar enemies and some new enemies, including who appeared in the trailer, the guy named the Bushmaster, who's a Jamaican guy. This series suffers from some of the same things as the earlier kind of like the previous Marvel installments like Iron Fist, Luke Cage Season 1, and a little bit of Jessica Jones Season 2 in the fact that there are periods in the story where they feel a little drawn out and a bit slow. The pacing is kind of off, which they could probably benefit from putting this down to like maybe a 10 episode season instead of a 12 or 13 kind of size, because it would make it the pacing a bit more kind of consistent. So the basic story is that Luke Cage is still up against Mariah kind of thing in the main story, I guess you could say. Obviously after the events of the first season with Diamondback and all that, kind of continues on from there, but with added kind of baggage from what happened in the Defenders crossover series. So the series mainly follows Luke Cage, Mariah, Detective Misty, and the Bushmaster. Looks great, just as the first series did. Nothing spectacular, but looks decent and kind of consistent all round. I noticed that they probably no longer have a licensing agreement with Red Cameras. A little tidbit there. But basically, I just found it really odd. So a few things in this series really odd that didn't capture me as much. There's a lot of episodes in this season that are fantastic and great. Oddly enough, one of them includes a character whose own TV show wasn't as good as Luke Cage, for example, but I really love the chemistry between them, and quite a bunch of characters from other series cross over, and not just interacting with Luke Cage. Misty Knight has a good single episode where it's crossed over with someone else from another series, and it works really well, I think. I really enjoyed both of those episodes. It's just in the middle there where it slows down a bit and feels a little bit time-consuming and a little bit boring, I guess. Some cool things happen. The fight sequences in this season are fantastically choreographed and really give a good sense of how strong Cage is, and which is what I really like to see. It's one of the things I liked about the season 1. Now, as I mentioned, one of the weird tidbits of this is that Luke Cage's Luke Cage's friend who films him in the first series. He makes a big deal about he's got a big red camera and all this, and he shoots in 4K and all that jazz. And it was obvious because the first series was shot on red that they had a licensing agreement and promotional kind of thing. Fair enough. And he sells like the 4K footage of the incident, which is the New York invasion in the Avengers and things like that. In this series, it appears that they've lost that licensing agreement, maybe, because for some inexplicable reason, the friend has gone from a red and is now using a Canon DSLR. So shooting 1080p and a tiny body on a little shoulder rig. And that just perplexed me. I know it's nitpicking, but that just seemed completely implausible to what that character was in the first season and what he was in the second season. And I know he's a tiny character, but just did not sit right with me at all. Not one bit. For a good chunk of the series, obviously the Bushmaster is kind of like a third party to Mariah and Luke, so it's like a three-way battle, I guess you could say, which is kind of cool. The only downside to this is that the second to last episode kind of ties up one main storyline, and then there's an extra episode after it where a bunch of other stuff happened. I wish they could have kind of condensed that into one final episode. I guess it just didn't come to that, but I think it could have worked a little bit better and be a bit cohesive and flowing in terms of pacing. But for the most part, I did enjoy this series. I enjoyed seeing what everyone was up to in Harlem, and like from the first season and the Defenders. And all in all, it's a decent offering. I'd say it's better than Iron Fist season 1, but not as good as Jessica Jones season 1 and 2, and not as good as Daredevil in general. As well as the Punisher. Punisher is probably better, I thought, than this season of Luke Cage. It just didn't really grab me as much, apart from those few episodes that were really good. I'm going to give Luke Cage Season 2 a 7 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much to Netflix for providing me with an advanced screener of this series. Had a blast watching it through and trying to keep myself from violating an NDA, obviously, but I never will, probably. As usual, leave a comment below. If you like the video, leave a like, click the like button there, subscribe if you want to see more, hit that bell button to see more uploads when they're up. Got tons more videos on the way. I filmed this video in quite advance, so I think it's like 2 weeks in advance because of a holiday, but I hope you enjoy it when this finally goes live. As always, take care. I'll see you next time. And the pacing seems to be quite...
No, not way.
You want to go over there? Okay.
With daddy's. Okay. No, no.
No?
That way.